evening, everyone.
Good evening.
That's not bad. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's so often, though, when I say good evening to folks, you don't get anything back. And they come to an event expecting to get a whole lot out of it, but they're not even willing to put a good evening into it. So thank you very much. My name is Jonathan Lewis, and I am the director of the Institute for Social Cohesion, a brainchild of the Providence Culture Equity Initiative. And we're very happy that you came to one of our very first events. The focus for the Institute is to explore and institutionalize programs that create equity and not equality. Y'all follow me?
Yeah.
All right, good. So I don't have to explain that to y'all. But these are the types of events that we're going to be having on a regular basis, pulling on old relationships. So thank you very much. Please give it up for PC. And before I pass it on to our speakers, I would like to call up Raymond Watson, who all of you probably know. So let's give it up for Ray as he comes up. And he will continue the program.
Good evening, friends. Thank you for being here tonight. My remarks are going to be very, very short because it's not about me at all tonight. It's about these fantastic women warriors to our left, and celebrating them and honoring them and hearing what their story's like. Because so often we don't listen to those voices, or we don't give them the proper respect that they should. So just want to take a moment to acknowledge a few chiefs that are in the room. Of course, Chief Two Bears Ross made it all the way up from New York, New Jersey, Chief. Good to have you here. Chief Wayne Standing Wolf, Chief. Very good to be here from the Oyster Park and Narragansett Drive. And Chief Curtis Kilrain from the Metropolitan Narragansett Drive. Good to have you here as well, Chief. I just want to, because for those who are familiar with the Providence Cultural Equity Initiative, we actually got our start from a Rhode Island Foundation Innovation Fellowship, and they have continued to be supportive. So, Ms. Jessica David from the Rhode Island Foundation, thank you very much for being here. Get out a round of applause. And at this time, I am going to bring up our facilitator for the evening, Miss Angel Newman. Can we have a round of applause for Angel?
Hey everybody, how you doing?
Hi.
Good evening. Good evening. You all are a good-looking bunch. Really, it's a pleasure to be here with you all. So my name is Angel Newman, and I wear a couple different hats in the community. First and foremost, I'm a mom, and that is my day-to-day job and what I love to do. But I also work at AS220, which is an arts organization here in Providence, doing a lot of different things, but my love and my most favorite work is working with young people, and that's, we have an arts program, jobs program, and work with some of the most talented young people I think I've ever come across in my whole life. I'm also a grad assistant here at Providence College, along with my partner in crime, Sokio Ross, who's in the back serving all the empanadas. Where you at, Sokio? So like this event definitely wouldn't have been able to come together without Sokio, because I don't even know how to work the microphone. I don't know how to set the tables up like he does. And, it's really cool to be able to work with him tonight. So I'm really pleased to be here. But tonight is most definitely not about me. We're going to get into introducing our panelists in a minute. But I do want to shout out Ray Fowlkes Watson for inviting me and us. Also want to shout out Providence College for allowing us to have this event here. And our director of the center, who's not here, Sean Mukhtar, who's really boss and really trying to like break down the walls here at PC to make sure the community has access to all the resources here. So yeah, all right. So we'll get started. I prepared something because I'm an over-preparer, so I'll try not to look down and read at the same time. In preparation for this discussion, I've been meditating on what it means to be a warrior. And while I'll leave the answering of that question to this panel of living examples, the prompt made me realize that I've never really thought about myself or the people that I admire from that lens. I think given America's historical context and Eurocentric ideology, we're socialized to think about strong community leaders as organizers, radicals, or revolutionaries. Yet the very notion, and really the invite, to think about ourselves as warriors was deeply moving, empowering, and made me curious to learn about the many women who may or may not consider themselves in a similar vein. I'm super honored that my exploration gets to start this evening. Please join me in welcoming our esteemed, distinguished panel of living warriors. So, to my left, we have Deborah Running Deer Afdasta. Give it up. Carol Lone Eagle Fowlkes. Michelle Singing Voice Johnson. And Bella Noka. Okay, y'all ready? And we have one mic, so we're just gonna have to pass it if that's okay. We have 3 questions that we'll get into, and we can do this real casually. Whoever wants to answer it, we'll just like pass the mic back and forth. Okay, makes sense? All right, cool. So our first question, what does being a warrior mean to you?
Yes. Hi, everybody. So, first of all, I never thought of myself, and I don't think of myself as a warrior. So when I got asked to come and talk about what it feels like to be a warrior, I really had to start thinking about things in my life. And basically, I think, being a warrior is life, is living. For me, being a warrior is living and facing things daily. And not being afraid, or being afraid but still pushing through that. I don't know, how much do you want me to say? Do you want to hear someone else? I have more to say, but come back to me.
Osio. And Akmide. My name is Carol Lone Eagle, and I am the Principal Red Chief of the Anasaladji Northeastern Band of Cherokee Lenape Indians. I'm also the Principal Red Chief of the Federation of Aboriginal Nations of the Americas. What does being a warrior mean to me? Well, to me there are a couple ways you can look at a warrior. A warrior is somebody who gets up every morning, puts on their uniform, and straps on a weapon and goes out to either protect the citizenry, the country, or goes to war against an adversary. That's one way to look at a warrior. But when I really think of a warrior, I think of my mother. She raised 4 children, went to school, got she graduated from college. At night, she didn't miss one basketball game, one softball game, one football game. She was at every track meet, every dance recital, you name it. My mother put in a whole lot of time in stands and in seats watching her kids grow and do what they love to do. That to me is a warrior. Somebody who actually, as you said, pushes forward, does what needs to get done. I mean, there are a lot of warriors in this room. Everyone, to a certain extent, is a warrior. Because you go out and you do what you need to do to either take care of your family, your kids, your moms, your dads, your animals. You're warriors. You're out there. It's you against the world. And you persevere every single day.
Chitamo, that is in my father's language of the Cow Creek Seminole. I am Narragansett, Blackfeet and Cow Creek Seminole. My name is Singing Voice. To me, what is a warrior? A warrior is someone who has to stand up and become the bear. In America, in America, the tallest animal on 2 legs is the bear. And when I say stand up, sometimes you have to stand up when adversary is against you. You know, everything can't be nice and nice, cookie cutter, so you have to learn to stand up, and sometimes you have to walk alone through situations. Because I find that there's a lot of people, no matter what walk of life, we have people who have to stand up from the bear every day in order to survive and to educate and to help other people. So that's what, for me, what is a warrior, especially women, because us women, we do a lot of work. and we don't get that much credit for it, or it's taken advantage of. And us women here, we all come from different nations, native nations, but we all have this thing, a lot of us come from matriarchal society, where we run the household. We have to take care of, when we get sick, when people get sick, who takes care of? The women. Everything always lies back on the women. Yes, some men, because not every woman has a man or a mate, we also have to provide, take care of, and nurture. So that's what a warrior is, somebody who also stand their ground. You don't have to do it in a violent way. Sometimes just being silent. Just being silent is another way of standing up, become the bear, because you can learn and people can learn from you in situations. Wow, they didn't overreact in a certain situation. They just stood there and they were still humble and be at peace. So that's what a warrior is to me. Someone must stand up and become the bear.
Hello everyone, I am Bella Noka, and to me, a warrior means responsibility. It means waking up and against all odds, running the risk of losing friends and family and others that you love and are dear to you for the risk of something greater that they cannot see themselves at that time. It's a painful position because you don't choose it, it's given to you. You wake up and you're burning passion to make things greater. You lose time out with your family and your friends, and you're in the trenches, and you're looking in the eyes of those who love you, who don't quite understand why you're doing what you're doing. And I will give an example right now. Not too long ago, I never had a problem with being on my base road. Everyone in there is very closely related. But when I seen people in my tribe who deserved to be there, but were left outside, I fought for them. I stood for them. It got to a point where I risked relationships. I severed ties with people because I wanted to bring our people home where they belong. And just very recent, through an action of both my sister and myself, we made a motion that would bring a lot of our tribal members back to the circle. It wasn't a perfect motion because they found a loop in there somehow, but we were able to bring the last couple of meetings, maybe about 140 have come home. And at that time when we were doing it, I was getting up, I was arguing, I was fighting, I was going toe to toe with my chief and the medicine man and those who I loved and respected so greatly. And I was called names, I was physically attacked. So you put yourself in a position, because when the day came where there were 40, 50, 60 people in that room getting ready to be sworn in, I felt so good in my heart and spirit that I played a huge role in that, to make that happen. And against all odds, I would do it again. And if I got attacked again, I would do that again. And to me, that's a warrior, because they put themselves to the side for the betterment of all.
Hi. Okay, so when I first spoke, I didn't tell you my name. I'm Fowlkes, and that translates to running deer. And I'm Pokanoket. I am the president of the Royal Council of the Pokanoket Tribe and Nation. And I'm also a member of FANA, which Ray is the director of. So in that capacity, there's a lot of things that people would say, oh, people have said to me, oh, you're so brave, you did this, you did that. But, and I don't, I just do things when they need to be done. I will do it. But I wanted to just let you know a little bit of who I am, because I think that's really important if I'm telling you what a warrior is. And so I grew up in the 50s. I was born in 1952. And back then, there was a lot of prejudice in the world, like just everywhere you looked. I don't know if most of you are kind of young, you might not remember it all, but I was there to see a lot of warriors, with all the civil rights marches, every one of those. We're talking about women right now, so every woman that stepped forward, they were such warriors. And I grew up in that. And here in Rhode Island, back then, in my world as I saw it, people were either black or white. And forgive me if I'm using the wrong terms, but black or white is how it was. There weren't a lot of people like me that were like brownish. So when I faced a lot of prejudice growing up from the black community and from the white community, and there was nowhere, and there were not a lot of Indians around when I was growing up. Other than my family, right, Herbie? It's my cousin over there. But being light-skinned was really hard for me because I got beat up a lot by black people and then by white people. When white people were friends of mine, they thought I was white, and then when they realized that I'm not white, they hated me or hated themselves for being nice to me. I don't know what it was. So even in markets, adults would say, "What are you?" And I got a lot of being put down. So that to me is really taught me to try to be a warrior and to just like when you come from a shy place or a beaten down place and you still have a little spark to keep going and not give up. So when I see that in people, that's what I call a warrior. And, that's really what it means to me. It's when somebody just keeps that spark going,
Beautiful. So I'm definitely hearing a lot about an emphasis on the collective versus the individual, standing up, being a visionary, and helping others see what they can't see already. And I think that's beautiful. So to move on a bit, so the word warrior, like the root word in there is war, right? And a lot of what even you just talked about, to be a warrior means that you had to have gone through something that was worth standing up for, right? So I wonder if each of you could take a second to maybe talk about, tell us a story, talk to us about a situation where you had to find the inner warrior in yourself and maybe what that took and what you learned from it.
You want to go first because I just spoke?
Well, I had a few to pick from, and I figured I'd put a little levity out there. Let me just preface this by saying I was a federal law enforcement officer for about 30 plus years. So yes, I got up every morning and put on that uniform and strapped on a weapon to protect and serve. Now, have you ever heard the joke about the robber that goes into a bar to rob it and it happens to be a place where the cops all hang out? Have any of you heard that? You've never heard that? Well, this is a little bit like that. I'm going to read it. There was a group of officers that were stationed out at a warehouse. There were quite a few of us at this one warehouse. There was no signage that said there were armed officers at this place. And we would go there every morning and we would get our briefing and then we would go out and do what we needed to do. Well, we had to park our cars outside of the fence, right on the street for some unbeknownst reason. And one of the guys had an old-fashioned Jaguar. Now, this car was pristine, beautiful. But he also parked his car out on the street next to the fence. So we went in, we came in one morning and we went in, had our briefing, then we went out to do what we needed to do. We would all get in cars and go to various places and do different, checks and balances and things of that sort. Well, we were coming back and we noticed two guys around the cars. We didn't know these guys. So we said, well, let's just kind of stop the car back here and just watch and see what they do. So the guys were looking at all the cars, and they got to the Jaguar. Now, mind you, we had been on the radio to the people that were inside the office also, letting them know that this was going on. So we watched them a little bit more, and then they put hands on the car because they were going to try and steal it. So the word go went out over the radio. We had people coming in cars, we had people running from offices, weapons were drawn, these people were put in handcuffs, and actually they went to jail for attempted robbery. But, I mean, there were like 20 of us surrounding these people. They had no idea where they were or who they were trying to rob the car of, but it was one of the officers in that building. So that's like going into a bar that's frequented by officers of the law and trying to rob that bar. I think that, it turned out very badly for those people that were trying to rob us that day.
Thank you. I have a lot of different stories, but I can tell you one where when I was a little girl, I went to, I believe it was Robert F. Kennedy School over here on Smith Street. And we used to have at lunchtime, little talent hour. You bring in records, and during lunchtime you could get up there and started dancing. So I brought in this record by James Brown, Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud. I always liked music. We grew up different type of music in my household. And I can remember, get up there when the pastor said, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. All the kids got up there, started putting up their fish, black and I'm proud. When I got to the third time almost raising my hand, a spirit said to me, put your hand down. And I'm looking around, and I'm like, okay. The teacher yelling at me, I didn't see nobody up there. And I was like, I put my hand down. After the song went off, I went down, sat there, and I kept looking around like, who was up there on the station besides kids? There were no adults. So I went home, and I told my mother, and I told my father, and my father came home from work, he was eating, and my father looked at me, and he said, I'm going to tell you what you are. I said, well, what am I? He goes, you're Indian. I go, oh, okay. Then he told me what my mother was and what he was, what nation he came from. And then, because I used to say, yeah, because Indian, she used to wear her hair in the two braids. My grandfather was here, so I kept saying, because I would ask my grandfather, because he has selective hearing. You hear him when you want to hear. I said, Grandpa, you Indian? Because he would tell me about Providence, how where I came from off of Eddy Street, it was all water. So I'm like, so I was going, Grandpa, are you Indian? And my grandfather would turn around and look at me like this. And I go, uh-huh. So I would ask my mother questions. And she says, Michelle, you're Indian, but guess what? Don't tell no one. Why not? Don't tell no one. Why? I came from the old school mother. You asked me that one more time. So I never asked. But it was so strange how my mother would take me around to all my great aunts, my great cousins who were women, and they would tell me, you know, you're Indian. I'm going, yeah. I'm like, but why is it so bad? Because, you know, I grew up at the era in the 60s, like I'm born in 62, of watching the Westerns on TV and, you know, the fake Indians on TV. People who were not native, you know, the ones who were always up in front. Sometimes there were a few for real ones in the back, if anybody remembers that. And the more I would tell them, don't tell someone, I wanted to know why. So I would start talking to elders about it, about being native, about certain things of native people, and I started reading, educating myself, and then I would ask certain elders. I said, no, that is not true. I'm going to tell you. Because see, a lot of our elders, as you know, a lot of them won't tell you anything. A lot of them keep it with them to the grave, and some will tell you. So I was blessed enough to sit around people that would tell me to develop that pride. And then when I started going to school and becoming more open about it, talking about it, of course, you know, like you get into the fights, you know, I used to walk around with my 2 braids, I used to put a headband on my head, and my father and mother never said nothing, you know, and because I was like, what is wrong with being an Indian? What is so wrong about that? And then my grandfather said, from my mother's mouth, because when he was coming up being arrogant, wasn't a good thing. The way they were treated. My grandfather said, I'd rather be called an old black N than be called an Indian. And I said, Mom, why? He said, because they were treated so bad. And then my father, he would also elaborate, because he was Seminole from the South. And he ran up against Ku Klux Klan. And all the stuff that my father saw and the way he was treated, my father never taught us to hate anyone. He never taught us that. So to me, that's also being a war. He taught us, because even though things were against him, he rose up above it and told us to give people a chance. You know, learn who you are, and that's the most important thing. Everyone needs to learn who they are. You know, a lot of times we fall, you know, people fall for the gimmicks of native, and I said, no, that's not our people. That's not how it goes. So I started educating myself, and I got around the people, the native people, and especially elders, that know the way, that were willing to talk, and I treasure that.
I try to escape this one, but there is no possible way that I can. But the smoke shop raid, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the smoke shop raid that took place in Rhode Island on our reservation, well, Narragansett and Turtle Island, on our reservation. And I always sat around the elders. I don't know why I was allowed to, but I'm going to be an elder this year in our tribe, and I am happy to have lived to see this coming. I always worked very hard, and I always said, even at a very young age, all I want to do is grow up to be an elder that everyone respects. I want to earn it. I want to earn it. I don't want to, I don't want to just be a senior and it be given to me because I reached that ripe age. I want to earn that position, like you, Ma, And with that, I've had a lot instilled in me, and I think for all the people that I have been around, and I've always had a great pride in who I was. My mom has always invested that love in us, and wherever we walked, we knew that we couldn't fall because we were surrounded around all of our ancestors. Many people don't have the feeling of just knowing that everywhere you walk, those are your ancestors. We don't have to go to another country to feel this. there's a feeling. There's a feeling. I could see a Native person from a mile away. We can be in a crowded room and I can point out someone. I don't care about any color. Doesn't matter the color. We all come from different colors. You see white people. You see some with freckles, you see some without. You know, you see some with straight hair, you see curls, but they're all white, you know. I don't want to get into that because to me that's not important. But I want to go to the smoke shop raid. The smoke shop raid was a day that really called on me. I wasn't prepared for that day, but it was prepared for me. And I remember being with my youth group. I was working with the international, intergenerational group, having the young kids work with the elders, and you know, we would serve them, and in return, they would teach us the language. They would teach us how to cook the old traditional foods and to finger weave and all that stuff that you just need to know. You know, pass down oral history. And we went canoeing that day, and my gosh, I looked at a wreck. Trust me, I went fishing, I went canoeing, I yelled at a bunch of kids all day, so I was looking like, you know, not my best. And I got out of the van, and it went by the smoke shop raid because I wanted to borrow some money for my sister, but then I see my husband, and I went, nope, got this. Jumped out, we were gonna go get some ice cream and have a beautiful day, call it a night. And when I got out, I could see my husband's face, and I could see my cousin John Brown's face, and Hiawatha's, and my cousin Matt Thomas, and I was like, what's going on? And they were like, get in the van and drive down the road. I'm like, nope, I'm not leaving. They said, get in the van, Bella, and drive down the road. And I could feel it through my whole body. It was like pounding on me. I'm like, something's about to happen, and I'm not going anywhere. So I told the kids to get in the van, in which they all listened, except for mine. Every single one listened, except for mine. They weren't going nowhere, because they knew if something happened to Mom, they're going to be there. And believe my daughter was 15 at the time, and my son 14. And I don't know, all of a sudden, I just seen these state troopers yelling, and the chief and my husband, and them just putting out their hands like, you cannot enter, where is your warrant? Where is your warrant? All that stuff. I mean, this still bothers me to this day, and I didn't think it would, because it's been a while, you know? And I don't hold on to pain. I release that. It doesn't belong to me. That anger is not mine. It belongs to them. And I release it. I don't wish for them to hold on to it, but it's not mine. So with that, I see my husband being thrown to the ground, my medicine man, my chief, everyone's being thrown to the ground. And not me, not me. I'm not letting that happen. So I asked the policeman, get off of my husband. He had his knee in my husband's back, and another officer had his foot on his neck. And I said, get off of my husband. And he told me to shut the F up, or I will be arrested. And all I will say, because cameras are rolling, it was worth getting arrested. Because yes, the warrior woman in me took control of her situation and did not let anyone overpower. This is my land, and I do not answer to you, and you won't speak to me like that. And you will not hold my men down. So I was asked when I was in court, and what I was charged with, felony assault, all these charges. I beat up a state trooper, I kicked him, I flipped him, I did all this. So this officer was about 6'4", weighing 200 and change. I was all of 110 pounds at that time, soaking wet. They had guns, pepper spray, baton, dogs biting us, all of these things like straight out of the 60s. And I didn't have any fear. There was no fear in my heart. And then when I drove this, when the state trooper landed on the ground, then my kids went into it. And I couldn't stop my kids. They were trying to protect their mom and their dad. And I always taught my kids to respect the law enforcement. You know, you may need them one day. But the same people that I taught them to respect, the same people that I told them if anything ever happened to mom, dad, anyone, you go to these people, they'll handle things. But the same people that were violating their mom, their dad, and everyone that they loved, their chief, their medicine man, they had no respect. They just wanted to overpower a people. But when I was asked, and I'll give the mic over, when I was asked, at what point did you feel them overpower you? This was in court. And my response was, I never felt them at all. And they did not overpower me. They didn't touch me. Well, Bella, you were on the ground. I said, no. I was perched high up in a tree. I released myself. I watched them and what they were doing. They couldn't touch me. The only thing that can touch you is what you allow to touch. Because at that moment, that shell was nothing. This is nothing. But this is everything. And nothing can touch you unless you allow it. You want to hold on to all the words that they teach you to hold on to? And they label you and tell you that you have all this pain and this trauma and these triggers? No, we don't. No, we don't. Maybe they do, but we don't. Pain does not belong to us. Love does.
With this question, share an experience that required you to be a warrior. So I thought of different things, but what I want to talk about is one thing. I talked a little bit about prejudice and how it affected me growing up as a kid. And I just want to add to that I always knew I was Indian from the day I was born. My grandmothers and my aunts and uncles, we lived as Indians. We went in the woods and we had fires and we danced around the fires. I never falter in that my entire life. And right now, the Pokanoket land at Mount Hope is the sacred land of our tribe. That was one of our sacred villages. And the seat of the Massasoit is there, where our Indians came for counsel. It's our most sacred grounds. I'm a granddaughter of the Massasoit. And 2 summers ago, we had an encampment of that land. Brown University holds the land. So we had an encampment, and I had never done anything like that before. I mean, I had been in some marches and things like in the past, Vietnam War and things like that, but nothing like this encampment that we did. We went into training for a week where we went up in the woods in tents, and we worked with a group of activists that trained us on how to be an activist and how to stand up for yourself and what to do, if the police are pushing you, and how to speak when you're during an action, and what to do if you get taken to jail. We learned about writing numbers on our body, so if we have a telephone call, and it was really scary when I, starting to learn what's going to happen to us when we do this action. And what we did do is we went to the land. When I say we, it was our tribe and other people that were helping us with this. We went on the land and we put up camps and we stayed there for 6 weeks camping, 6 or 8. And police came, and the police they were really nice to us. They did not, they thought it was our fight with Brown University. But the thing that I wanted to talk about this was, there was one, it was probably the first day that we got there actually. There was a man that lived near there. Were you there? You were there. And it was a white man, and he lived there, young man, 30s or something, mid-30s. But he was drunk, and I don't think the drunkenness had anything to do with what he did, but we had men and women guarding the front gate. And this man attacked them. And he wanted us out of there. He didn't own the land, but he didn't want any Indians around there, and he thought we shouldn't be there, and we had no right to it. And he attacked the people at the gate, and he made a lot of threats. And when he left, one of his threats was, "I'll be back with a gang." And he took off. So, and this was the first night we were going to be there. So, I mean, we had, I think there might have been some children, some night days there were children there, but mostly it would be women and men. But in any case, we were all already frightened at what we were doing, not knowing if we were going to all be in prison or not. So we had to protect the area, which is all woods and water on this side. And just, that was one of the times that I really felt like, this is way out of my comfort zone. But we needed somebody to sit in the woods overnight in a car. Because one of the routes that these men, the gang that was supposed to be coming, would come through this one dirt road in the woods. So I sat in the woods with another woman in a car the whole night. And that was really a scary night for me. And I kept thinking, what am I going to do if this gang of men come here and jump on this car? And what am I going to do, really? So the woman I was with, she said, just step on the gas and we're out of here. But I'm saying, I don't want to kill anybody. So I was telling myself, you're not going to step on the gas. But there was really nothing I could have done. But the thing was that we had to protect each other. And it was a really scary day. And I just want to talk about that. The group that helped us is FANG, and I just want to say, if you might know them, some of you, or probably a lot of you, I'm so proud of that group of people. Every one of them is such a warrior in this day and age, because they take time out of their life to step forward and just help different causes. If you have a cause and if they believe in it, they will step forward, put themselves out, and teach you how to do that and how to act as activists. Recently, I just went a couple of weeks ago to a dinner for the head of FANG, because she's been fighting against ICE, and she might be going to prison. We had a dinner, and it was activists from all over the country came. Were you there? Okay. Yeah, it was wonderful just to see all these people that put themselves out. But I mean, just for me to be even next to people like that, I feel so proud, because there's a lot of things that need to be addressed in this world. We all know that. And if you can be one of the people to step forward and try to start helping people, it's good. I think we're all warriors in a lot of different ways, And then sometimes we're warriors in a way where we really reach out and help others. And it's a big fight. But anyway, that was me in the woods, in the dark, overnight, in a car, waiting for a gang of guys to come kill me.
That's amazing. You all are gifted storytellers, and really thank you for like letting us in. And I'm not sure how much you know folks in the room, but thank you for being vulnerable and letting us into some of your past. And I think, like, for me, the word like sacrifice keeps sticking out in like all of the stories that y'all talked about, is just being vulnerable and sacrificing, and like not cowering in the face of injustice, and just feels like really at like at the deepest level possible, just knowing what's right and knowing that you'll do what's necessary to restore balance and justice. So thank you for that. I have one more question that I was supposed to ask, and then I think we'll open it up to the audience for some questions. But the last one that I have for you all is, what, in your opinion, what is the greatest challenge to being a warrior in contemporary society? So we heard lots of, drawing on allusions from the civil rights era, and just like some of the deep challenges that we're still faced with today. But is there anything specific about like 2020, just this day and age, that you see as being uniquely challenging, maybe that's different in ways in the past?
This was a hard one for me, but I came to the conclusion that the biggest challenge that I see for being a contemporary warrior, I think it is walking in your own destiny and setting your own goals in life. And I say that because the world right now is very fast moving. People, we have a lot of problems, like environmental, clean water, clean food, economics, struggling to be able to survive, and working. And also with the technology increasing, it puts pressure, there's less jobs. And it's more like you're a robot in a lot of jobs. So I worked at a company, and it was when the more computerized and technology they got, the more we were like robots. We didn't think for ourselves. Everything, we were micromanaged. And I think a lot of people are dealing with this kind of thing, micromanagement in corporations. It gets your brain so you don't have time to think for yourself. You can't define what is my destiny, what do I want to do, when you're stuck just working to get a paycheck to pay your bills. And I think that's a big challenge for people, to be able to step out of that. And I was watching a movie about the Unabomber, and of all things, he said, to change your perspective in life is one of the first steps toward freedom. And I was like, that's really good. I want to keep that one. Change your perspective and increase your freedom. And I think that's a big challenge for people. And a lot of it is because of being stuck, in a job or something where you can't think of any other thing or any other way of living.
When I think of society today, I look at the differences when I was growing up. If I wanted something that I would get in my old comic book, and I saw something in the back of that comic book that I wanted, I had to save my little money. And once I got that money, I had to then send away for it, wait a couple of weeks for it to come, each day checking the mail, and then when it finally came, I was usually disappointed because it wasn't like it was in the picture. Today's society is instant gratification where I can go online, put in my little credit card, and it'll be here tomorrow. I don't have to think about, saving and doing and things of that sort. But one of the things we need to think about saving is our traditions, our languages. It's important, because if we let those go, then we're not going to be here too much longer. Then when people say to you, oh, you're still here, which I hear a lot, then we're going to actually be able to say, no, we're not. So we need to, in my estimation, organizations like FANA, where we're coming together to work together to make those things happen. Classes and helping each other, networking with each other. I may have a strength that you don't have. You may have a strength that I don't have. Why are we not helping each other? That's what being a warrior is. I mean, get a group of people together and let's get it done. But people have to be willing to put the time in, and a lot of people aren't. People have to be willing to go that extra step, and a lot of people aren't. That's why this country's in the wonderful shape that it's in now. 51-49, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. That was the vote today, with the impeachment thing. But we need to bring each other up. Women, if you're in a position of authority, you need to put your hand back and bring more women forward. We need to look out for each other. This is a man's world, but really, it's a woman's world. Seriously. Sorry, guys. It's true. You know that old adage, if mom ain't happy, nobody's happy. Is that true? That's absolutely true. It's absolutely true in my house. So just think of modern day warriors as those people who are actually pulling together to make it better for not just your tribe, but every tribe that's out there, that's doing what needs to be done to pull the people together. Because again, you might know something I don't know, and I may have some information that you might need. So let's work together to get it done. Let's learn our languages. Let's keep our traditions. Let's meet in ceremony. Because again, if we don't, we're all lost.
In this contemporary society, as a struggle of being a warrior woman, this relates to Indigenous people, Native people, is that we need to have recognition that we are still here, that we are still living here on Turtle Island. And that's what I find when I go to certain functions, we get to talk and people think I'm Cape Verdean or think I'm Dominican. I go, no. What are you? First Nation. First Nation. First Nation. What about the First Nation? Indigenous. Aboriginal? I'm like, what? American Indian. Oh, really? There's really Indians left? Yes! Are you still here? Are your people still here? Yes, they are. Then we are still here. So that's what I would like to, that's what I find with the struggle is that, people only think that so-called Indians, Native Americans are west of the Mississippi. You got a whole mess on the East Coast. And we are still here. We are still living, we are still thriving, we work, We get sick, we die, we have children, we eat pizza, we eat ice cream, we get diabetes, we get cancer. And I like to also see that in the medical fields. I work in a medical field, insurance, is that sometimes I watch studies, and when they talk to like different ethnic groups, they'll say, you know, African American, Hispanic. And look, okay, where's the native at? Because especially Native people, we have a lot of diabetes. I mean, every race does, don't get me wrong, but we have because of our diets. And I would like to see more things done on a proactive level of seeing that Native people get put on the sheet of saying, yes, we want to do like certain studies so we can live a better life, because a lot of the foods that are introduced to us are not Native foods. So it has gone against us. It has hurt us. You know, we didn't have all of this weight and diabetes and high blood pressure because we ate more meat, fish. You know, so a lot of things that were introduced to us are not good for us. So I'd like to see more things done as us through the medical field, education. Because a lot of Native people are getting more education. Because back in the day, you know, with Wounded Knee, my boyfriend was at Wounded Knee. What was great about it brought Native people together and to be proud of their elders and traditions. But one thing they kind of lacked was education. It's great to know who you are, where you come from, but into this society, you need an education. Because man has conspired against himself. Every time he's turning around, everything is technology advanced. You know, say for instance, you buy your phone. Apple, $1,000, like, I don't think so. I got bills to pay. Next thing you know, a couple of years later, it comes out with another model. You're like, geez, I just bought the phone a couple of years ago. I got $20,000 phone. Now it's another one? Oh, what's on this? Oh. So you get like coaxed into it, buy it. So my thing is that we need Native people, and one thing I want to say too, because I went to a thing at Fowlkes with the Matching Tuckets, and it was a movie that was out about people who were put up for adoption. They were put up for adoption, also who went to the boarding schools. Okay. I'm tired of people who are non-native speaking for me. We have intelligence. Everyone that the Creator has created has intelligence. A lot of people, whether they thought they were good, whatever, are speaking for us. And when I looked at the people who were at Standing Rock, does anybody remember Standing Rock? Okay. Those warriors were out there, okay, speaking for themselves. You know, and not let people dictate how they should live. And the thing about it, what I found beautiful about it, brought all people, all different Indian nations together. But I just want Native people, because every one of us, no matter what race, creed, or color, whatever you are, we all live in the struggle of life. We all do. We all live. But I would like to see Native people do better. And we need to do better. And I put that responsibility on ourselves. I don't want people speaking for me. You do not know what it is to be Native. You know how it feels to be Native? I know how it feels. So that's why I just say with Native people, as I said before, you got to stand up and become the bear. Aho.
Hi again.
Can you ask a question, please?
Yeah, sure. So just thinking about in 2020, just contemporary times, like what's uniquely different about being a warrior? Like what are some of the challenges that maybe you're facing today that maybe are different than 10, 20 years ago? And maybe they aren't really the same, but is there anything like uniquely different?
Yes, the passion in my people, the passion. I don't know where it's gone. But I know that when there was a concern or when somebody was hungry or somebody was hurt, there was a village that stood by them. There was a village that came to their aid. There was a village who took care of their kid. There was a village who fed them. We looked out for each other. We stood by each other. Me, I have a look. I have a very Narragansett look. And I don't laugh and smile a lot, especially when I'm doing my work or deep in thought. And sometimes I can be sitting in Disneyland and something would come through my head. And I just have a thought that a very stirring look on my face. And so many people would say, Bella, smile. Well, I am. I'm a very happy person. But I have deep thoughts. And I'm always thinking about how I can better or fix, or take care of someone. And my mind doesn't rest. If you're hungry, I'm hungry. When I eat, you eat. And that's how I was raised. I hope for all of you that you see me as approachable. Because I am. I'm very approachable. And I love all of you. You may not have met me. You may not have sat down at my table. I may not have sat down at yours. But I don't have to. Because spirit to spirit, we are really truly one. People may say that they know me, but they don't know me. They have this idea about me. But until you come to me, and you know, I'm a pretty cool person. Yeah, I'm strong. And I don't bite my tongue. And if I feel as though it's BS, I'll call you out on it. Because we don't have time to play games anymore. We've been fed all this stuff. And I want to get it right, because if we're going to get it right, the time is now. It's now. Right now I work I've been working in Atlanta, and I work in human trafficking. I work in the trenches with these young women and young men, and we're doing a mini-series, and we are backed by the Mashantucket and the Mohegan Sun. And we're going to be filming in the next 2 months, and I hope that, you reach out to me, because I feel like we're all a part of something great. And until we realize that, we're going to fail. We have to get together. When somebody calls me, I answer. My husband is so tired of me answering. My kids, I think they missed out on a couple of years with me. And they made many sacrifices so that others can prosper. And I thank my kids, I thank them all the time for dealing with this mom who would jump up 2 o'clock in the morning and do what she needs to do to better another person's world, because my kids are laying down in down quilts with a roof over their head and they're eating just fine. I want your kids too. So it doesn't work when we're doing well and we can walk around and, I grew up on food stamps. I'm not ashamed of that. I lived in Chaparral Housing Projects. I lived on the east side of Providence. I lived in Fox Point. All my family is in Charlestown and all about, but you know what? All of this land was mine, so it doesn't matter where I stand. This is my land. So to say that you have to be in Charlestown to be Narragansett, that's a slave-like mentality, because you do not put me where you believe I should belong. I will roam wherever I choose. So I've never really experienced a lot of the things that I've heard about, because I never paid attention enough about what another man has thought about me. You better be more concerned about what I think of you, because what you think of me is none of my business. I am very proud, and I expect that person to be proud of who they are, whether they be Chinese, black, white, French, whatever. The only thing I ask for in return is respect, because I'm sure enough going to give it. And I think there's room enough on this land for us all to roam respectfully and freely without offending another. And if you feel as though that has to be the way, then you're the problem in this world. So for me, I believe that the passion in our people, I thank you, Jill, because this young lady, when I was actually, I shut down administration up in Charlestown with a core group, and she reached out to me in a really, really hard time, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Jill, you made that call. She came up with coffee and donuts, and she was ready to stand by my side, and I'll never forget your face. I will never forget your face, and you are a product of Michael Van Leesten, my cousin. And I am proud to call him my cousin. All of you, when you said that everyone's a warrior, you are. I believe her. I agree with her. But we have to wake it up. We can't sit there and let that Bella Noga do everything by herself. You know, I cry at night. I hurt. I'm in pain. Yeah, when I get up in the morning, I think I'm tougher than nails, and I straighten up my jacket, and I pop that collar, and I never let them see me hurt. But you, my people, I'll humble myself in front of any day of the week. And I would go and drop over at your house and fall asleep on your couch in the middle of the night. But you better let me in. You hear me? But I love you. I truly, and this is genuinely stated. These are not pretty words. They're not pretty words. I don't have to know you to love you. I do. I don't want to wait till anybody dies to say I cared about them and the moment I shared with them. I'm doing everything in my power, truly, as an individual, to make it better for all of us, not just in Narragansett, not just the tribal nations, but for the whole world.
Thank you so much. So we are going to open this up to the audience for some questions. And I'm going to take the first question, because these questions were not mine. They were given to me. And as an audience member, I do have some questions, but I'll just ask one. And then we'll pass the mic around for who wants it. So admittedly, when I was asked to facilitate this panel from Brother Ray, I was first honored, but then second, I'm like, why, am I the right person for this? Because I don't know when you see me, what you actually see, but I identify as a black woman, right? But my great-grandmother was full-blooded Cherokee, but I didn't get to grow up with her. And that's on my dad's side in California. My dad's a black man who, I didn't get to grow up with him, so I just don't know much about him, but I do know that his grandmother was Cherokee and proud. But because my mom and him split when I was 1, it's not how I grew up, but I always felt a deep connection, but also don't want to be an imposter, right? I don't want to try to claim something that is so real and deep to people who grew up feeling proud and having the language and the heritage. But I feel conflicted, right? Because I also want to learn more. I want to be proud. I don't want to participate in the erasure of my own people. But I guess I'm wondering for some advice for folks maybe who are like me, who are super mixed, maybe confused, but feeling a calling to learn their roots. How can we do that in a respectful way, in a real way, and in a way that really can help us get back in touch with who we are?
Okay, well, you know, I think that most of us are mixed in this society nowadays. Yeah, I'm mixed, obviously. Like, my grandfather's from the South. He grew up in Virginia, and his dad was Indian. His mom was white and Negro. I don't know if that's the right term to use. Excuse me. But, you know, growing up in the South, you know, when he came here to the North and married my Indian grandmother, there's a lot of mixture in me. And I'm proud of all of it. Like, you know, I'm so proud of my grandfather, you know, like being with his parents, being slaves. But, you know, it's hard. My grandfather always told us to be quiet, but that was a product of the South. Be quiet, be quiet. Like, you go in public, don't talk. But, you know, like, you can always look into your heritage. You can start to just research every part of it. It's all so exciting. You know, I find it exciting. It's exciting to be, you know, have slaves in your background and, you know, just all of it. I think you should just look it all up. Just start, like, go on Ancestry.com and start there. That, I mean, it sounds funny, but that thing, it really works and it gets you going, and you can start to talk to people, older people, and just learn more about yourself, like every part of yourself. I have one girlfriend, brown-skinned girl, and she's actually Indian, but she grew up identifying as black. And I was saying, oh, come on, like, we're both Indian. She's a good friend, and she's like, no, because I grew up black. But you know, like, I think you need to embrace all of it. It's all beautiful.
Genealogy is very big right now. You can contact most tribes, and they have people that will actually help you to do your genealogy. Are you able to talk to your father at all? I know you don't know this man, but are you able to talk to him?
Yeah, I know him. He just isn't very helpful.
Okay. Does he have brothers, sisters? Are your grandparents still living? Okay, well then you would have to do that yourself. However, again, there are people that can help you from each of these tribes, number one. Number two, find a tribe, find some people from the tribe or the ethnicity that you're looking for. Cherokees, Choctaws, Shinnecox. Find them and talk to them. Learn a bit about the tradition. You know, I mean, look, I always believe you should find out, as Running Deer said, you should find out everything about yourself. Because you, just like most people in this world, there's one or two, I would say, I don't even know if they're people, are amazing. You're an amazing being. You are unique. No one else is like you. So find out about all those parts of yourself, okay? And there's nothing, I mean, if you decide, hey, I'm going to embrace that part of myself and be considered mixed, or I'm just going to continue to think of myself as a proud black woman, that's fine. Whatever you feel is good for you. But learn first so you can make an informed decision as to what you want to do. And, you know, I would say you don't even have to, you know, push that Indian thing under the table. Embrace it. Why not? It's part of you. You're very lucky. Very lucky.
Also, you can get around other Native people, especially you live here in Rhode Island. You can get around a lot of other Native people. And believe it or not, we used to have things called the member socials. And when and I was going, when we had a lot of socials, I would meet all kind of different Native people from different Indian nations. And they were both of knowledge and friendship. You know, so that's what you need to do if you're gonna take that next step in your life. Just get around those who are positive, the positive Native people, and they can help. I was gonna say, mold your moccasins. They can help mold that for you. You know? Okay.
You don't have to choose. There's no reason to choose. When white people, and actually I don't hear many white people saying, I'm full-blooded white. Or I'm part white. And we surely don't go up to them and say, are you really all white?
They say that to us.
So I don't really, once again, care what anyone thinks, what they say. We speak in spirit, and many others speak in code. And that's why there's a breakdown in communication. But I will share with you that if in your heart and in your spirit, you know what you want to feel, or you know what you want to do, that's authentically yours. Do that with. Just know that there's a village here waiting to teach you anything and everything that you may need to know, and will accept you into that circle to love and dance with you, and walk that circle and sit around that fire and fish with you and do all the good things that our ancestors have done and continue to do. Because that's who we are, and we speak in spirit.
Thank you so much. I think for me to feel like I can fully actualize the warrior in me, there's some things I have to reconcile with. And so I really thank you all for that, really. So is there anyone else who has some questions? We can pass the mic around to the audience.
Oh, come on, don't be shy. Come on.
Come on, I was just super vulnerable.
Thank you, Angel. That was a lot.
You want to go, Monica?
I guess I'll go if nobody else is going.
She's pulling people's names.
Right, thank you.
Big double questions.
Thank you, ladies, for being here tonight. My name is Monica Huertas, and I just had a question. What is your opinion, I guess, and maybe some of y'all can answer, all you can answer it, whatever y'all want to do. But just your opinion on like our relatives at the so-called border, and what are some things that maybe tribes in northern, right, America, Turtle Island, can do to kind of say, you know what, tell the federal government, no, you can't tell our cousins that they can't come to our land. Or if that's even a thing, or if that's something that y'all would be willing to do, or back up, back? Yeah, back up. Yep. Thank you.
I lived in San Diego, right next to the border. I crossed that border many times and partied there for a long time. So, living next to the San Ysidro border, I lived in Chula Vista. And I seen my face in their face, you know? And again, and I know you've all heard this, they didn't cross the border crossed them. They are our people. And just because somebody puts this chair between me and my cousin Michelle, it doesn't make us not cousins. It's just the chair's in the way. And right now we just have to move it out of the way. And it will be moved. So like they say, and I'm sure you heard this as well, anything that they build, our children will knock down. And we will be one again. So I think people realize those days are ending very, very soon. And if you can't feel it, you better wake up. It's happening.
I support them.
Thank you.
Okay. What's happening at the southern border, in my estimation, is crime. However, people down there are following the law as it has been passed by the executive branch of this government. They are following the law. Now, sometimes they're taking it a little too far, but they are following the law that they are given. That is what they're supposed to do. They're law enforcement officers. That's what they have to do. If you don't like the law, have them change it. You have that power in your hands. That is through the vote. You have to make sure you get out and vote, because that's going to stay until you get new people in there to change those things. Let your representatives know this is not acceptable. Let the executive office know this is not acceptable. You have that power in your hands. Now, again, some people take it too far. That's going to happen in any job. But they are following the law as it's written. If you read the law, which I read, they're following that law. And so you can't condemn them. You have to condemn the law. Get rid of it. It needs to go.
No disrespect to you, and I know you were a veteran for 20 years plus. But when the law disrespects a human being and puts them in a cage and pulls them apart from their family, then I say to hell with their laws, okay? Because you do not break up families, and you do not put them in cages, and I don't care what law is written for that. And that's where the warrior in me comes on. I gotta pass this back.
But again, the law has to go, and you have the power to change it and get rid of it. What they're doing, like I said, is not the right thing. To take a child away from a parent is going to make that child remember that for the rest of their lives. It's going to traumatize them to the point where they're not going to be able to sleep at night. I mean, I've seen situations in the news where children have been reunited with their parents and they won't talk to them because they feel, you left me. You need to change the law in order for that not to happen again. Yes, you can go down there with batons and clubs and try and beat up on the people that are enforcing those laws. It's not going to do you any good. All it's going to do is get you thrown in jail. The law has to change. We have the power to do that, but we have to make sure we use that power. And if we don't, then we're doing ourselves a disservice, because this is on us. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a hard thing. I think it's easy to say, like break down the wall, but you have to think about what does that really mean. It's a lot of people coming into an area, and we have to be able to take care of them and find them jobs, and it's not a good situation, and it doesn't seem fair when you think of the world, that there are so many people suffering throughout the world. I don't know if the answer is to have all the suffering people come and live here. We need to start thinking more globally, in my opinion, in our politics and things. Like most of the people that have most of the money, it's, 1% of the people own all the money in the United States? I mean, and most of us do nothing about it. There were some people protesting a couple of years ago in Providence, and people were laughing at them when they were walking to work, to their slave jobs. And we have to start thinking about this stuff, and people have to start standing up more. Like, we need more people willing to stand up for these kind of things. And when she says the law, yeah, there's a law to keep people out. And I agree, like, how do we change that? It's all a political thing, isn't it? And It's not easy, that's all I can say, but I think that just like, if you had to find groups, you look at FANG, groups like that, or even start yourself, brainstorming what we could do. I don't have the answer. I don't really think the answer is just to open all the gates, because then we're all gonna die probably. It's not gonna work. And it's not just South America, it's the Middle East. My husband, ex-husband, is from the Middle East, and they have so many issues over there. And you know, some of them want to come here, and they escape. I know people that have escaped from the Middle East here. But I mean, that's not really the answer. I don't have the answer, but I honestly think that we have to start walking in God's path in a loving way, and stop like thinking of not just ourselves, but others.
We have a question over here, if you don't mind. I'll bring it to you next, though. Is that okay? Thank you so much.
Thank God I hold my appreciation of my language, or I'd like to say. Thank you very much for y'all being here and your example as Indigenous women and leaders, and the strength and the frequency when you walk through that door. Everybody can't feel it, but I can feel it. So I appreciate that. My question had to do with what is known contemporarily as Puerto Rico, or Borinquen. I want to ask from an Indigenous-minded perspective and from Indigenous women leaders, what do you think about the situation with, well, I don't know how familiar you are with the situation in Puerto Rico as far as destroyed infrastructure, disconnecting, or the people being disconnected from services and utilities, and also from aid and continued aid based on all the earthquakes that have happened, and it being denied by the U.S. corporate government at this point. What is your opinion about that? Because as far as I understand it, and my ancestors are from the island of Puerto Rico, and we are Boricua people, we're Americans.
Yes.
We're Americans too, like we're Americans, and we're not treated as such. So as far as, you know, from that perspective, what is your opinion, distinguished panel? How about that?
I get very passionate, and sometimes I can't hold back my feelings when, you know, regardless of who it is. My mother always gave us the freedom to speak our spirits. It wasn't, you know, a child should be seen and not heard in our home. In our home, a child had a voice, and it could be heard, and it was respected. So I know that, you know, I'm conflicted with you know, some things that have been said. I mean, we don't have to agree on everything. We respect each other. But I wanted to say something about those who come here to America looking for a better way of life. Everybody came here looking for a better way of life. And nobody said anything about the English or the Irish or the Polish or any other white country. But when those brown people started wanting to come here, now all of a sudden they're criminals and they're rapists and they're all of the above. I don't want to hear it. I'm tired of their history books. I'm tired of their lies. I'm tired of their BS. And people from other countries, they have a place here just like anybody else has. So with that being said, when you speak about Puerto Rico, it's simply because of the color of their skin. It's simply because of the color. We're not going to dance. I'm not giving you pretty words. I'm not a cigar store Indian. I don't speak with Indian breath to give you pretty words and say aho at the end of it. I speak again from spirit. And with doing so, those people are our people once again. And we need to look out for them. And I'm tired of us talking the talk, but not walking it. Everybody gets politically involved, and they get their picture taken in the paper, or they get a trophy, or they get some kind of pin to put on their chest, and they call themselves these activists, and the only time they're active is if it's something that's bothering them, or their family, or something that is loved and dear to them. But when any human being, this man right here, this young woman right here, goes through any kind of oppression, then every single one of us need to be bothered. Because when you stop feeling, then you're dead. If you're on this journey just to wear tights, Uggs, a North Face jacket, an iPhone, and a bun in your hand, and walk around in the mall banging into each other, then you're dead. You're in that box, and you don't know how to get out. But that's where they want us to be. Because the minute you speak your heart and you speak your spirit, well then guess what? She has ADHD, she has, what's another one? Tourette, no, you're speaking your heart and your spirit, and they want to numb and dumb you down. And you know what? Many of us are becoming numb and dumb because all we do is sit down and we watch CNN and we watch MSNBC and we hate Fox News and we damn the president, but none of us get up off our asses to do shit. Excuse my expression. What have you done? What have you done other than pose questions or watch it play out on television? And you have to ask yourself, because at the end of the day, when you meet the Creator, He's going to ask you. And I hope you have a damn good answer.
Everybody needs to like rise up and get active and reach out and start. I'm just kidding. No, I consider myself a shy person, but this is the time to not be shy. There's too many things going on. We need to get together. We need to fight this stuff. Like, I don't know if crashing down the wall is the answer. Like I said, I don't know the answer, but I do know that we need people to help. Like, I try for help all the time at my tribal meetings. I beg people, you have to help, you have to help. You know, I can't do it alone. I can't, just a couple of us can't do it. Some of the faces I'm seeing here are the people that I always see that always hear this stuff. There's some new people too. But in general, like, I don't know, if you need to grab a friend and bring them to these kind of things. I don't know.
What's happening in Border
We need help.
is ridiculous. Texas had an issue with a hurricane, or I think it was a hurricane, and they got aid of the yin yang to fix it. Puerto Rico has a hurricane, and 2 years later, they're still in the same state. Once again, and unfortunately, you're right, it is because it is brown skin of the people that live on that island. They don't have the money, they don't have the influence that, I'm just going to say it, this administration looks to. And again, I'm putting the blame where it belongs. And that's what that man in that White House that actually is the people's house, we actually should bring some teepees over and put them in the, just put them up around the White House and tell them, look, this is the people's house. Where's my room? Seriously. No, I'm kidding. We'll all be carted off to jail. But again, you have to look. You've got an election coming up. You have
legislatures down in the legislature. You need to start talking to the people that represent you down in Washington. If they're not representing you the right way, they need to go. Seriously. That's how we as a collective can handle some of these things that are happening. I mean, there are other things that can be done, but for a grandmother, she was on the news not too long ago. I don't know if I can live in my house. We had that earthquake, and I'm afraid my house is going to fall on my head. And who's doing anything? I know that there are some places that are filling up containers and containers of foodstuffs and things of that sort to take over there. I've seen it. I've been there. But what is this government doing? Just because they don't call you the 52nd state doesn't mean that you don't belong to this country. What they're doing in Puerto Rico is wrong. And it's time for us to stand up and say, you need to do something. Where's all this other money that you're due? What about, forget this wall. All that wall is doing is showing the coyotes where they should dig the next tunnel.
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. He's going to take billions of dollars from defense. Okay, take billions of dollars from defense. If you can spare, if it's good to do, you want it for that wall, why don't you take that and put it in Puerto Rico? Why don't you take it and put it in some places around here that need it? Like the 9th district in Louisiana, that still looks like it's a bomb shelter. Let's get it right. If your people that you have down there representing you are not doing what you need to do, they need to go. There are people that have been down there for 20 years. What have they done? If they haven't done what you need them to do in your communities, bye.
Yeah, but you know, the whole political system, even when you put some other politicians in, I mean, it ends up being a lot of the same stuff. I have a question for you. What can we do? How do you think we can fix things? And how can you, rally people to work on issues? Do you have any suggestions?
Okay. No, come to the microphone. We all want to hear you.
I still define myself as a youth, not like elder yet. I wish to be there also, as well as saying. At least in my experience working in the community from Guatemala, by Alcobar woman, but also I'm here and working in the community. And I feel the need to work together. That also is difficult because, okay, what I see, okay, I'm an immigrant in a way that I am being qualified for people here name, but I feel like I don't feel that I am immigrant in this land, because for me, I'm from here too. Right. I am from Mother Earth, love everybody. That means I'm free here. But I respect also that people here, like Narragansett people, all of you are fierce. I respect that. But we are sisters, brothers, I get that. But being, okay, we break that like, okay, black people, indigenous people, immigrants, everybody's kind of fighting alone there in that corner, it's like, we are not going through this solution. We're just fighting in our way, and sometimes like fighting between us, maybe not like in the way, but don't supporting each other, and that makes us like, no, ¿cómo se dice? No avanzando.
Advancing.
No.
It makes us stuck, feel stuck.
That's what I can say. At least for me, I definitely dream in a world when people the people that is being oppressed, they can work together, we can fight together, and we can win something in the future.
Brother Ray, do we have time for one more question?
Yeah, it's Sean Robert. We got it.
My name is Chanrabi, and I want to thank you for speaking and honoring, giving your honor tonight. And a little bit on immigration stuff. I think the law is complicated because legality, it reflects the moral values or lack thereof moral values in the political moment, and it's very hard to define. So we saw that with Indigenous communities with Indian Removal Act, right? We saw that with Japanese internment camps and how that changed, right? Now we're seeing in this political moment, there is a tide shifting, right? And we have to figure out as a community how to be in solidarity with one another because colonization and imperialism has divided us so deeply, right? And my question to you as Indigenous women, Indigenous communities, is how do other folks that are not Native and Indigenous move in solidarity with you, right? What are the strategies, right, that we need to talk about and really bringing people together in solidarity versus having conversations of division? Because we can go on about division and we can go on around who is not valued versus who is valued, but that's not the conversation we should be having. We should be having conversations about how do we bring solidarity together, right? How do we show up for you? How do we show up for Black communities? How do we show up for Indigenous migrants, right? How do we show up for like folks in this community? Because the United States is changing demographically, right? By 2050, it's going to be more than half communities of color. And these issues are going to permeate and consistently permeate. So how do we continue to build solidarity? Because these are the conversations we should be having, right? And how do I show up for you, Bella? How do I show up for everybody on the panel and not go into this deep rabbit hole around legality, around who is not valued, who is valued right now in our political system? So I want to know what you need us to do. I heard stop erasing Indigenous women, right, in these conversations. Stop erasing Indigenous women and Indigenous people in conversations, right? I also heard don't speak for us, right? That's another strategy, right? So how do we continue to build those strategies out so that we're in solidarity with Indigenous people?
Good question. Beautiful question.
I believe they love the disconnect.
Yeah.
They bank on the disconnect. And we know that. So what do we do about it? So I started an organization called Status Purple. Status Purple, you don't belong to the red, you don't belong to the blue. We stand in the center. The blend brings all of them together. Red and blue brings purple. Purple is royalty. And it's for everyone. It's for everyone from every walk of life to be a part of.
Yeah, we're still going through that. The Europeans, that was the thing against the Indians, divide and conquer. And even now, a lot of the tribes don't get along very well. And I'm always talking with one of our sachems in our tribe, and it's another woman. And what we want to do is unite even our tribes, that whole divide and conquer. So, how can you get ahead or solve your problem if you're alone? And, I think that we need to have more women groups. And, let's have a women group and sit and talk.
We'll take you, men, too.
What she said is true.
Yes.
What
Come
she
here,
said.
Chief. This is Chief Ross. Chief, come on. Come on.
Don't be
shy.
shy.
You can be honorary.
That's history in this nation. With the Native nations in history of this country, there were always female sachems at one time.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Let me tell you, there is a prophecy out there.
That's what I was going to say about the prophecy.
Oh, sorry. The female energy will heal it. Female energy will heal it. I'm going to leave this for the chief now. Excuse me.
I call that.
But it's true.
what she's saying is very, very true. Prophecy dictates that the unification and the solidarity of Jawinko, the genuine people, the original people, will come through our women. We come out of their laps, and when we die, we go back to their laps. You see what I'm saying? I was raised in a household full of women, so I'm biased. My grandmother was a clan mother. She was the matriarch of the family. When she passed away, my mother became the matriarch of the family. She just passed on. That's my older sister, who's the matriarch of the family. Okay, she's the next clan mother. As the sister over here said, you know, they run the household. Back in the time when we had villages, they ran the villages. Clan mothers picked the chiefs. Chiefs couldn't be a chief without this solidarity of the clan mothers. Okay, that vote came into the ground with the rest of the people to the clan mother, whatever clan they were from. That's what they represented. Belongings. Okay, the Plains tribes, they're more, well, not totally matrilineal, but all the belongings, teepee and everything else belong to the women, belong to the men. You know, the children are born to the clan of the women, don't belong to the men. You follow what I'm saying here? Okay, that's where the divorce came in. If they split, the children, the house, everything else belong to the woman and their clan that she's from. The man can just go off and start again anew. Because he was strong, he was supposed to be a warrior, right? Provide for himself. Okay, he had his own clan that he was born into. They took care of it. Okay? So that's where that law came about. Came into society now. But what she's saying is, what everybody's saying is, traditionally, spiritually speaking, okay, coming from the spirit, coming from the heart, okay? Igay Ayuli, I love you. I'm speaking to you from my heart. I respect the sacredness in you, in everyone, in everything, all our relations, our two-legged, our winged, you know, our people, okay? Doesn't mean that you necessarily know how to return it, but because I know, all right, I'm responsible for that, okay? So that's the beginning of solidarity, is expressing that, putting that hand out, and reaching out. What can I do for you? Not necessarily wanting something that you reciprocate, give it back to me, you know? But if I see you're in need, you say, it's my place to ask you, and that's tradition, all right? Upon being colonized, we've gotten away from that. We've learned a lot of bad habits, a lot of European habits that are not our way. We don't walk that way. We never walk that way.
That's equity that you would describe. That's equity.
Yeah. See what I'm saying? But we picked it up. We got caught up. We got distracted. Those who were born on the res were born urban. You were born right in the middle of the distraction. You don't know any better. It's not your fault. But once you do know, once you're taught the other way, the true way, our way, okay, the way our ancestors were taught, all right, now you're responsible. Now it's up to you to change that, okay? Our women are the backbone of any nation. It doesn't have to be red, it doesn't have to be Indian, okay? Women are the backbone of any nation. Without them, they wouldn't exist. Where does the nation come from? We're brought here to be caretakers of our earth. What do we refer to as? Mother Earth. She's our mother. Why? Because she provides for us. You follow me? All right? She provides for us. All right? With the Creator's blessing. So, it's not a male thing. All right? Moni was one of my war chiefs. I have two. They're both women. And both qualified. That's why they're sitting. You see what I'm saying? All right? I have men that are warriors, yeah, but they're not qualified. All right? They're qualified to fight, truly. Diplomatically, no, they're not good for that. They're not trained for it. trained. And it's not because of their fault, it's because of how they were raised or how they were educated. All right? They weren't given the opportunity to become well-rounded and to be political. Learn how to do things with a soft air as well as a hard air. Okay? These two women here know how to do that. So when I say prophecy is coming about, she says the prophecy is coming about, and women should come more together, do more groups like this, reach out to other women, and bring them together. Not necessarily to be, indigenous women. Okay? There's other women that can partake in that too, because that can be transferred back into their own. See what I'm saying? So it's just a positive thing altogether. All right? And we stop thinking. So if I'm saying I respect the sacredness in you, all right, as a human being, as a human being, sometimes we'll say like, this man's walking around like he ain't got no mother. What do we say? He wasn't raised right. He wasn't raised right. He's like an animal, So that's what we mean by that. Everything comes back to our mother's lives, our grandmother's lives. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to clear that up for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was great hearing from the audience. Thank you to our panelists. And yeah, I do just in a response to some of the questions, I do think like, for me, I think a lot about nonviolence, Kenyan nonviolence, and you learn about like the different types of conflicts that exist, like the values conflict and a pathways conflict. And what I hear in the room, it doesn't sound like any of us have a values conflict. It sounds like we all are on the same page in accordance, and the question is really around pathways and how we strategize in a way that is inclusive of everybody. And I think that's a healthy and a good place to be. I'd be more worried if it was a values conflict, because those are really difficult to reconcile. But I do think, I think it really is, just to echo what folks in the room have been talking about, we know that the quote-unquote enemies, which happen to be the black, the brown, the immigrant, the queer, the woman, the poor, the anyone who supports any of those groups, right? I think it really is about us coming together, holding community, just like an event like this, and being able to overcome our pathways conflict, and not getting caught up on semantics, and not getting caught up in disagreeing, and spending time on the 20% that we disagree on when we agree with 80%, right? So I just want to thank everyone for struggling together through this conversation. Really give it up for our panelists, women warriors. And I realized what the difference for me, with the difference of like, I was thinking about it like organizer, revolutionary activist, warrior. Why does warrior feel so much stronger? And I think it's that alignment to spirit is what I think I have found in this conversation. It's alignment to spirit in accordance to the natural law and balance of the universe. And y'all taught me that tonight, so I really appreciate it. Brother Ray, Glow, can y'all come up and wish everyone well? Can we give it up to Brother Ray and Glow, please?
So we just have some traditional gifts that we want to give to our panelists. Can we have another round of applause for our panelists? One of them, and I'm going to ask them to each select their own, is going to be a goose feather, because geese come in a good way. We want to wish them safe travels and thank them for coming up here, so we'll ask them to take a goose feather with them. And then I have in this basket different chips of eastern red cedar, which is an indigenous tree to this region, because we honor and celebrate and acknowledge the eastern culture and eastern woodland ways here. So I'm going to ask each of them if they would take one as I come past. And then Mr. Lewis here, the director of the Institute for Social Cohesion, has some very nice certificates of appreciation for your participation this evening. We do appreciate it. And I'll ask before they go if I could just get a very nice picture of them with Mr. Lewis, so that we make sure that we're documenting this sort of stuff, because this is very important. Turego was telling me that we should have actually been live streaming, because whenever we have conversations around indigenous issues, particularly around women, very seldom do you see women who look like this, brown-skinned, not the stereotypical sort, and yet there's so many of us out there. Indigenous people come in all different shades, all different colors, all different heights, all different, whatever you want, because it's about the blood. So, want to make sure we get that picture, and we also want to thank Angel and the fantastic crew here at Museum. Thank you very much for hosting us. I'm going to come now. Absolutely, Angel. Hey, come on, let's go. Yeah, take that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And we'd like to thank you for having us. We really, really appreciate it. We enjoyed ourselves.
Thank you.